Hello, this is Dr. Dennis Bielfeldt of the Christ School of Theology. You've joined us with the course Faith, Knowledge, and Reason, which deals with philosophical underpinnings of theology. Last time we looked at the work of Descartes, and today we'll look at the work of Spinoza very quickly. He was born in 1632 in Amsterdam of a Jewish family, and Spinoza was expelled by the Orthodox Jewish community in 1656. He's a little bit too much of a free thinker for them. And in fact, that was quite a excommunication, if you will. It was never rescinded. He produced his masterpiece, The Ethics, towards the end of his life, but he didn't live very long, dying in 1677, making his way in the world as a lens grinder and then going home to do philosophy. In The Ethics, which is his major text, he tries to demonstrate the truth of God, nature, and ourselves. He articulates the highest principles of society, religion, and the good life, and he argues that happiness and well-being is not in a life ensnared by passions and transitory goods, nor to the superstitions of religion, this got him in trouble, but rather to the life of reason. He uses what is called the geometric method, or the geometrical method, to deduce metaphysical facts from definitions and postulates. So what are some of these definitions? Well, he says, by substance I understand what is in itself and is conceived through itself. And I guess if you were a 17th century guy, you would really relate to this, right? That's what a substance is. By attribute, he says, I understand what the intellect perceives of a substance as constituting its essence. And then by God, I understand a being absolutely infinite, i.e. a substance consisting of an infinity of attributes, of which each one expresses an eternal and infinite essence. So God has an infinite number of attributes and is absolutely infinite. Now, he's got some axioms. They seem a bit obscure at first, but Spinoza, of course, believes they are completely straightforward to the philosophically informed. A couple examples. Axiom, whatever is either in itself or in another. Now, that's an axiom. You can't doubt that. Whatever is either in itself or in another. Another one, from a given determinate cause, the effect follows necessarily. So we have an axiom that every effect must necessarily follow a cause. Well, I remember the first time trying to read Spinoza. I was an undergraduate student, and I sat down with this book, and I was going to read it through. And my goodness, it really puzzled me, because these axioms and the postulates, definitions, then the theorems didn't seem to quite connect to the others. But I wasn't a 17th century guy, so I didn't see the natural light of reason did not enlighten me, I guess. But anyway, here are some propositions that he deduces about God. A substance is prior in nature to its affections. There you go. That's proposition one. Proposition two. Two substances having different attributes have nothing in common with one another. In other words, if two substances differ in nature, then they have nothing in common. Three, if things have nothing in common with one another, then one of them cannot be the cause of the other. Well, you can see that these things have a certain plausibility, but it's a very different world than most of us occupy in the early 21st century. Four, two or more distinct things are distinguished from one another, either by a difference in the attributes, that is, the natures or essences of the substances, or by a difference in their affections. And what he means by an affection here is an accidental property. Five, in nature, there cannot be two or more substances of the same nature or attribute. Well, that's the identity of indiscernibles. Because if you had two or more substances of the same nature or attribute, then you would have the same thing. 6, one substance cannot be produced by another substance. One substance cannot be produced by another substance. Okay. 7, it pertains to the nature of a substance to exist. I'm just going to run through these quickly. Every substance is necessarily infinite. The more reality or being each thing has, the more attributes belong to it. Each attribute of a substance must be conceived through itself. God, or a substance consisting of infinite attributes, each of which expresses internal and infinite essence, necessarily exists. Now, he uses the ontological proof here for the existence of God and employs it in much the same way. The nature of God includes its existence, therefore God must exist. His existence flows out of his nature. Spinoza writes, if you deny this, conceive, if you can, that God does not exist. Therefore, by axiom 7, he's going to trump you. If a thing can be conceived as not existing, its essence does not involve existence. His essence does not involve existence. But this is absurd, therefore God necessarily exists. Okay, well, I can go on with this. I'm not going to. But the point is that he's trying to prove all of these deep metaphysical truths from a set of axioms, a set of definitions. It's very much like Euclid would have proceeded with geometry. But now we're doing it with metaphysics. And so, I mean, he's really taking the rationalism, if you will, of Descartes to new heights, or some would say new depths, right? He proves, of course he has to prove, first he establishes that no two substances can share an attribute or essence. Then he proves that there is a substance with infinite attributes, that is God. And then it follows in conclusion that the existence of the infinite substance precludes the existence of any other substance. Now, what he's trying to do, he's trying to prove, you got to go back to his definition of substance. It all goes back to this definition of a substance. By substance, I understand what is in itself and is conceived through itself. Now, think about that for a minute. And what is in itself and is conceived through itself, Descartes has 3 of them. He has material substance and material substances, mental substance, right? Different mental substances, and God, which holds these things into being. So he's got 3 kinds of substance, but there's lots of different mental substances and lots of different material substances. And so what Spinoza is saying here is if you take seriously the definition of substance, you're going to see that there can only be one of these things, right? There's only one thing that exists through itself, and that is God, right? And then he argues that the one thing that exists through itself, which is the substance, this God has all possible attributes. And he holds, of course, that God has an infinite number of attributes, and what he then claims is that of these, human beings are aware of the attribute of the mental and the attribute of the material. So this is very interesting how he proceeds here. Very different than Descartes. Descartes has these 3 kinds of substances, but many different individual substances which fall under those 3 kinds. Here, because a substance exists through itself, there is only one of those things, and that's God. Nothing else could exist through itself but that which exists through itself. And he points out that material substances and mental substances for Descartes really don't exist through themselves, right? So, I mean, he's trying to start with where Descartes' at and show that Descartes didn't go far enough. He proves that God is the only substance. And since by axiom 1, whatever is either a substance or in a substance, then everything must be in God. Everything must be in God. So there's one substance, this is God. Every other thing must be in God. And those things that are in God are called God's modes. Modes. So I'm going to come back to this. We now have determined that there is one thing, and that's God. God exists through God's self. Other things are in God, and these are modes of God. And I'm Dr. Dennis Bielfeldt of the Christ School of Theology, and I'll be right back with you. Thank you.